terminology. So the individual, the microcosmic aspect is called as Vyashti, and the macrocosmic aspect is called as Samashti, right? So the entire process that we saw, right, in terms of just going to our own self and then looking at the five koshas and the the avasthas and all that, right? So and then coming to the layer of Brahman, or the ultimate reality, that is the consciousness, that is that is manifesting all of this and that is giving power to all of this at an individual level. It is called as, again, a technical term I just want to introduce here. It is called as Pindanda, right? And then when we come to the macrocosmic layer, that is, which we are currently looking at, that is called as a Brahmanda, right? So yeah, so I think you can start the recording. Sorry, you were asking me when to
Yeah,
start.
no, that's I've just
Yeah.
started it. Yeah, Haribai. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So again, repeating that. So the at the micro layer, that is, at the individual layer, whatever we saw earlier in terms of that till this layer of this one, this view is called as Pindanda, right, at the individual layer. And then whatever we are going to see at the macrocosmic layer is called as the Brahmanda. We are going to see the entire creation manifestation. So this is what we saw last time. And then we went to the manifestation. So the Brahman and Maya, and we are trying to map this to whatever we learned, right? And then the same aspect will come to the same micro aspect, whatever we learned will get extrapolated into the macro layer as well. So we were seeing this table, the five elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. And this is how the manifestation is being described in our Vedic text, right? And then Akasha has got its Sattvic element, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. And then similarly, all these have its three gunas. So Akasha's Sattvic guna, right? And that is what is the hearing. Vayu Sattvic guna is the touch, Agni Sattvic guna is the vision, Jalam Sattvic guna is the taste, Bhumi Sattvic guna is the smell, and the Antakarana. So whatever we have learned earlier in terms of the Pancha Jnanendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Prana, Antakaranam, and then the Stula Sharira, everything we are trying to map about how this came into being as a creation or as a manifestation, how this has evolved. Actually, that's what we are trying to look at. So Akashas, we all know that we came from these five elements, and this is what we Panchabhutas, right? Now how that from Panchabhutas, what is the process of that evolution, right? So that's what we are trying to learn here. So all this, whatever comes under the Jnana Shakti, right? Whatever is that we are analyzing, hearing, or through knowledge, whatever we have to process. Whatever we have to process is these powers, right? Hearing, touch, vision, taste, and smell, and also our Antakarana. Antakarana, again, as we know, consists of four elements: Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, right? So anything and everything that we have to know or we have to perceive at the knowledge layer, the jnana layer, is what comes under the sattvic aspect. So that is what comes under the sattvic. Now, anything that we have to do as a karma, as a kriya, like our hands, we are doing work with our hands, right? That the speech that the talk that I'm doing is a karma, is a pravarti, right? So that anything of that aspect comes under the rajasic aspect of it. So rajasa, vak, pani, pada, payu, upastam, right? So all this we have seen already, and the pancha pranas, because again the pancha pranas, circulatory system, digestive system, all this comes under the karmic aspect of it. So that and all comes under the rajasa quality. And then we said that the everything here, the Sukshma Shariram is covered. Then the only part that was pending was the Sthula Shariram. That is the gross body, the matter or the material that we are talking about, right? So that is called, that will come through the a process called as Panchikarana. So now, one thing is that, is this clear? Is there anything that we will go to the Panchikarana, but then is this view clear? I think so, right? No questions. So I think one. Sorry.
Sorry to interrupt, Pradeep here. So the the bottom part, Sukshma Shariram.
Mhm.
Um, okay, we are saying that is across Satvika and Rajasa. Okay, I was just thinking why we have just limited to that. Because okay, Tamsa, we are saying it is not open uh, for knowledge gain, and therefore it is Sthula. Is that how we are relating to Sthula for Tamsa? Why is Sukshma Shariram not across the yeah?
Yeah, so that I think for answering that we will have to go into this layer, right? Just give me a minute. Yeah, so Sukshma Sharira, this is what we saw in Sukshma Sharira, right? Earlier, this is the view
Correct.
that we did earlier.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you look at, this is a Sukshma Sharira construct. Pancha Jnanendriyas, Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Prana and Antakarana. This is what the Sukshma Sharira consists of, right? So, and if you look at the entire view, this is what we have seen as our own view. That is from a bodily perspective, what we are when we deep dived into ourselves. So this is what we saw. So the Sukshma Sharira, if you look at what is Sthula Sharira, Sthula Sharira is this gross matter, right, in the body.
Yeah,
Only the body which is subject to the pre-birth, birth, growth, change, decay, and death, right?
yeah,
And then we understand that the powers that we have within this body, like the power of these sound, smell, taste, and touch, and everything. Those five, uh, you know, matters of perception, right? That comes under the Panchajnanendriyas. Then the speech, hands, feet, anus, and reproductive organs. Those are all Pancha Karmendriyas and Pancha Prana, right? Those are all not. Those are all part of the Sukshma Sharira. If you look at,
yeah,
correct, the Stula Sharira is not part of Sukshma Sharira because you just see this is the second layer,
yeah.
right? And Karana Sharira is the seed, the base to all.
Seed state.
This,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, this is clear, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So if this is clear, then this should not cut across because Sukshma Sharira only consists of this much. It
Got
is
it.
not cutting across to Sula Sharira. Yes, Sula Sharira is something that is the base or the ground for Sukshma Sharira, in the sense that it is what is nesting the Sukshma Sharira.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. So, but Sukshma Sharira itself is not cutting across because this hands, if you look at, or the eyes, or the flesh that is there, that is not part of Sukshma Sharira. That is the gross matter, as we know, right?
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is what we saw as the three bodies, right? When we saw the sheets, and also the sheets also we saw that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so okay. Anyways, I think let's quickly go back there only, and then we'll once more we'll try to connect it. So anything that is there for the Pancha Jnanendriyas and Antakarana, which is the knowledge aspect, which is like the knowing aspect of it, that comes as a sattvic element of the manifestation that we are talking about. That came from the sattvic aspect of the five elements: Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. The sattvic aspect of these five elements constituted the Jnanendriyas, whatever is to be known,
Yeah.
right? And Antakarna. The Pancha Karmendriyas and Pancha Prana is actually the function, that is karma, right? So all this we are these are all karmic aspects of us: respiration, evacuation, circulation, digestion, reversal,
Yeah.
right? So that's like the mechanical karmic process that happens. That is part of the Rajasic aspect. Now we have covered the entire Sukshma Sharira within the Rajasic and Sattvic aspect of the five elements. Now what is left over is the Stula Sharira. That is this gross body, how this has been made, right? And the Karana Sharira, of course, we said that this is at a seed level. There also it's the same at the Vyashti as a Samashti level, which is the macro layer. Okay. Now there was another question actually. I think did we see that? I'm not sure. So I think somebody was asking. I think it was Jignesh Bhai who was asking that all of the animals or all of the living beings, do they have these layers, right?
Yes,
So
Haribhai.
Yeah. So did we see that last time, or are you clear about it?
No, no, we did.
Okay.
We did not.
So the point is that, okay. So now this is the samashti aspect wherein we are talking about the entire creation as such, or the manifestation. I am using creation and manifestation interchangeably because we are so much used to the word creation, right? In Vedantic terms, it is manifestation because it is just the one power which is getting manifested in multiple forms in through this process, right? So there is nothing to be created there as such, because creation requires you are creating something new. There is nothing new that is being created. That's why I'm using it interchangeably. Whenever I say creation, it means manifestation. Now coming back to the question. So here, if you look at, this is what we as the most advanced species in this planet has, right? Because human, we have all this. Now we can create a customized view for each of the living beings with the same chart, right? For example, if you look at some animals, right? They might not have the power of vision, as an example, like let's say bat, right? This part will be missing, right? If you look at the plants as such, right, the entire part will be missing here, right? So only this tamasic aspect. I'm getting an echo somewhere. So if you look at from a plant perspective, the Dravya Shakti, this tamasic aspect will be there predominantly. And then depending on the nature of plants, some plants have got, some, I mean, depending on the nature of what type of plant it is or what type of creature it is, then all this will come into picture. So you can create from the same chart, you can create a customized view of what that particular living being is made up of. If you look at, this is the entire view, so you can, it's like the what you call as a uh, you know the entire chart, like the periodic table of elements as an example, right? You can pick and choose and then see which one fits to which living being. That's how it is, right? But in an entire creation, from a creation or manifestation perspective, this is what the view is, a simplistic view. This is much more in depth, but again, now we saw this and we are seeing this for the humans as such, because we have all these, right? So we are looking at it from our perspective and we are looking to the outside world, to the universe from our own perspective. That is how it is happening. Okay.
Haribai,
Yeah.
how you have given Satvika as a hearing and Rajasa as a vak for the Akasha? Is there any specification for Tamasa for Akasha or Tamasha for Vayu or anything? Because, for example, you said that okay, you choose for each different living being as a combination. But even in for example, for myself, if I have to choose from the this five tattva as a combination of which I'm trying to be like uh become, or what I am basically. So I have combination from Akasha as a hearing, or which combination I'm like trying to select. So is there any tamasa description in there?
Yeah, so Tamasa is coming. That is the Panchikarana is what we are going to tell now. Right now, first of all, this view is not an individualistic view, right? This should not be looked at as I can choose this way or that way. This we have already seen the individual view in the previous sessions, right? Wherein we went to the layer of Atman, right? Now what we are looking at is how the this universe has been created from a Vedantic perspective. What does it say? That is, whether it is how the five elements has led to the creation of anything and everything that we see around us and beyond the world. So if you look at individually, Hari or Sandeep or Pradeep or whoever that is just a small dot in that creation, right? So, we are looking at it from a macro perspective, not from a micro perspective. Micro perspective, you can say that it's gunas. As we said, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic is what gives us the mixture of the character that we are, right? So, but from a creation perspective, because what we are trying to say here is this body, that is, I should be having this hearing, or I should be having the functionality of touch, or or the functionality of taste or smell is not something that Hari as a person, I didn't choose. I came with this, right? Because this body is something that we don't know from a logic perspective. I didn't order for this, right? So I didn't, and that's what we are trying to understand, how this all came into being. And it's not like I went to a supermarket and chose that, okay, I want only smell, I don't want the touch. Not like that, right? From an individual perspective, it is not that we have chosen anything. It is from a all creation perspective, that is the worldly perspective, the universe perspective. There is a scheme of things that human beings has got all these powers, all these power of senses. Animals has got these power of senses. Plants has got this kind of powers, and some other reptiles has got this kind of powers, right? So like that. So there are a lot of powers that we humans doesn't possess, but like some animals possess, right? As an example, bat, they have the supersonic powers, right? They can judge the distance using those waves. And like the dolphins, the whales, right? We don't have those qualities, like the dog having the smelling powers, right? So those qualities we don't have. But what I'm trying to say is that we are not looking at it just from an individual perspective. Individual perspective is over. We are looking from an entire creation or manifestation perspective here. Okay. And now we will come to the tamasa aspect of it, on how this gross matter has been made and as described in the Vedanta text. So before we go there, and just let me clear that confusion. From the why we have looked at it this way, because we studied about Karana Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, and Stula Sharira. So, and we were trying to connect it from a individual perspective to go to other worldly perspective, the macro perspective. So we will have to change this now to the Karana Shariram becomes Karana Prapancham, right? Because we are trying, for our understanding purpose, we are just trying to say that this is how as an individual is made up of, but then this is how the creation is. So there is a saying in Vedanta, yat pindande tat brahmande. So however is the creation of an individual, be it, when I say individual, not just human, of any creation, that's how the entire creation is made. In the sense that whatever is the base for one creation of one or manifestation of one particular individual or one particular creature, that is how the entire universe is also made of. That's the principle that Vedanta puts across. So which means that everything came from these panchabhutas, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi, and its various permutation combinations.
So,
Right?
Hari bhai,
Yeah.
just specifically on the last point you mentioned, that the individual manifestation and everything that is created is in relation to the way that individual uh, manifests, right? So does that mean, like, if I have been created Pradeep and I'm unique with my own capabilities and my own combination of sattvic, rajas, tamasic, and other qualities, uh, whatever I see,
Mhm.
or the I mean the gross, sorry, the macro level, that is what's called pitana, no, the brahmanda that is visible to me as an individual after my manifestation is different, for example, to the brahmanda that is probably visible to another individual, because his qualities are different and he's manifested in a different way, he, she, it, other, whatever it is. So is it like, I uh, is it perception for me is different to others, or is it the same, but it's just, I'm trying to understand if it is unique to each individual, because every individual is created unique, right? That means if the brahmanda is reflects the uniqueness of the way the individual is manifested, then the brahmanda should also be unique for every individual.
No, so the way that, okay, so the way that you are explaining is, you are unique. Where are you unique, right? Or where am I unique? So we are unique. Let me just. I
In the
think-
manifestation, right?
no, 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 hold on, hold
Combination,
on.
no?
Give me a minute.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at, everyone has got all this, right? The in terms of, I'm talking about the normal human being. So you, me, everyone has got this power of hearing, touch, vision, taste, smell, everything, right? And we all have the bodies, we have this aspects of Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi, from where we have got this power of hearing, touch, taste, vision, smell, everything. And
Correct.
like Vak, Pani, Pada, Payu, Vastam. Now, what differentiates you and me is at this layer, right? The Antakarna layer,
Yeah.
where these qualities of Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic again applies, right, to this layer, and the mix of those Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic here, right? The Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic, the mix of how which quality is being predominant in what proportion
Correct.
determines my and the difference between yours and my character.
Yeah.
Correct? That is what it is. But then that doesn't mean that the entire scheme of things here is changing.
Okay.
Right? You get that? So the
Okay.
Antakarana layer, again, Antakarana, what is it? Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara, right? All these four things are the Antakarana.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my ego layer, right? My ego will be definitely different from your ego and will be different from Sandeep Bhai's ego or Jignesh Bhai's, right? So
Got
why?
it.
Because we have our own experiences, but then if you look at the entire scheme of things from a overall macro perspective, it doesn't change, because our entire change is in this layer, this Antakarana layer, right? So that's what it is. That's what is differentiating us. But the way that we all perceive, right, the Brahmanda is the same, because then the reason why we are saying that is the same fields of experience that you are having is what I am having, right? For example, if you are going to a movie, or if you are going to a concert, if you are going, or even sitting and discussing here, what I am saying is what you are hearing, or what you are saying is what I'm hearing. Correct? We have the common fields of experience, which is created by, which is being propelled by, or which is being manifested by these five elements, and it's sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic elements.
Yeah.
Our difference is in this layer, in the Antakarana layer. What differentiates one individual to another individual?
Got it, Haribhai. Yeah. Thanks.
Right. Okay. And of course, yeah, if somebody doesn't have, let's say somebody is blind, right? This might be missing, that, the vision layer might be missing. So similarly, so that's what it is. Okay. Now we are coming to a very interesting part of it. Now we have just looked at the subtle elements till now. The smallest, that, the Karana one, which is the Karana Prapancham, which is the seed form, and the subtle elements, like, these are all subtle elements, right? We are all talking about powers. Don't mistake this to the real, the eyes or the fleshy ears and all that, right? No, anyways, I'm not going in depth to that, because we have in detail discussed the Sukshma Sharira and its aspects and everything. Now we are coming to the Stula Prapancha or Stula Sharira. Let's look at how this has been made, which means anything and everything, the matter how it has come. This is very interesting from a Vedantic perspective, right? So this is the process called as Panchikarana. We know that Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. Okay, five elements. Now, how is that five elements becoming this gross body? How is it becoming anything else in this world? Right? So we are just talking about the base layer here, and the various permutation combinations are there. I mean, millions of it, right? That's why we are seeing different things. Before I get into this Panchikarana, let me also tell one thing just to set the context. The purpose of this text or the Vedanta is not to study Panchikarana in depth, but to look at what is powering this Panchikarana or beyond. So there are, as I mentioned in the previous session, there are texts which are described in detail, describes about the Panchikarana, like, the Panchikarana Vartikam and Aitareya Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and all that, wherein it is mentioned, the creation aspect is mentioned. In this text, we will not look at to that level of depth. We will look at the base layer and then the various permutation combinations that are leading to it. So five elements, Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. Now we are explaining the process of manifestation. So what is it? So the Vedantic text, all the text says that, the element of Akasha or the space got split into two. Okay, Akasha got split into two. So just, take this as a 100%. So split into two, 50-50. Again, Vayu got split into two, Agni got split into two, Jalam got split into two, Bhumi got split into two. Right? So this is the next step that came. We are talking about the tamasic aspect on how the Dravya Shakti came into being. And then the next layer, what happened is each of these Akashas, the first layer, that is, the top layer remained as is. The bottom layer again got split into four different, let's say, atoms in today's terminology for easy to understand. Four atoms, right? Vayu again four, Agni again four, Jalam again four, Bhumi again four. Okay. Before we go to the next step, are we clear till now?
Yeah, Haribhai, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Now starts the play of how this various permutation combination happens, right? So now what happens here is that Akasha has got is the top layer, right? And then it has got split. The bottom layer of Akasha has got split into these four different bubbles or four atoms as such. The Vayu, again four, Agni, the top layer that is 50% remains intact. The rest of the 50% got split into 12.5, 12.5, 12.5, and 12.5, right? And Jalam again got split in this way. Bhumi again got split in this way. Now, what happens as the next step is that this top layer of each of these elements remains intact. And one element from Akasha, there's one atom from Akasha, goes to Vayu. When that happens, the aspect how it is getting combined, right? The atom from Vayu is going and coming to replace here. Similarly, one atom from Akasha, again the second one, is going and replacing one of Agni. When that is getting replaced, so see, this only has space for 100%, right? There are four. So when one is coming and getting joined here, one will is going to replace the space that where Akasha was, the initial atom of that Akasha was placed, whichever is going to come and getting joined here. Again, the same happens with Jalam. Again, the same happens with Bhumi. So what happens in that process? So if you look at Akasha's one, the top layer remains intact. One atom of Akasha goes and joins Vayu, right? And the Vayu comes here. Again, one part of Agni comes here, one part of Jala comes here, one part of Bhumi comes here. Similarly, then there is no Akasha down. Akasha is only at the top. The element of space is only at the top. So 50% of the element at the top and 12.5% of Vayu, 12.5% of Agni, 12.5% of Jalam, and 12.5% of Bhumi. So this is the compounding that happens here. Right, so we have studied the compounding and in chemistry, right? So the compounding, this is the compounding that is happening here. So this is the mix, right? 50% this molecular set of Akasha plus the atoms of all these four different elements is forming one combination or one compound. Similarly, for Vayu, the 50% of Vayu and the other four atoms of these other four elements. Again, Vayu is not there in the bottom layer. This forms the second compound. Similarly, Agni, the top layer of Agni, and the other four atoms of this forms the third compound, Jalam and Bhumi. So this is the base compounding that is happening, which is leading to the base layer of Dravya Shakti or whatever matters that are there. Now, this play of this base compound with various permutations, combinations that are happening is what has given rise to everything and anything that we see around us, is what Vedanta says. Okay. And now, if you have to go in depth, we can go in depth into this, each of the layers there. But then this is what it is, right? So what has happened here? 5 elements. Okay. Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. And then we saw again, I'm just going back to this one, this Panchikarna, right? So this permutation combination is what has given rise to the gross matter, the gross body, gross matter, anything that you see name as matter, anything that you see as, you know, through our fleshy eyes, even this flesh, this eyes, this hands, anything and everything that you see is basically a permutation of and combination of those. That is what is called as Panchikarana. So this is the Stula Sharira aspect or the Stula Prapancha aspect of it. So if you look at the Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi is the base, the total base for everything. Then it came that the entire Sukshma Sharira here, right? The subtle elements of everything
Yeah.
is created with the gunas of this, right? Again, the Sattvic, Akasha's Sattvic and Akasha's Tamasa, Akasha's Vayu, the Vayu's Tamasa, Agni's Tamasa, Jalam's Tamasa, Bhumi's Tamasa. That is what has given rise to the Panchikarana. When I say this, the entire thing of this is tamasic aspect. So you should also look at this as the tamasic aspect of it. So this is how, in a nutshell, a very elaborate topic. I try to squeeze it in a very capsule format, but this is how it is mentioned in our scriptures, that how the creation or manifestation came into being.
Hari bhai, one
I'll take
question.
a pause here. Yeah.
Very interesting way how the lower part is where we are saying it. The combination happens. Again, I mean, it may be that it may be too detailed to go into more depth, but why only are we like why is not the parent element not in the bottom side, right? And then if we are saying the bottom half is the manifestation, what is the above half? The above half, is it the other non-manifestation, or is it the rest of the emptiness or the brahmanda, or what is that?
No, no. So see this entire thing, right? If you want, this is the pictorial representation. First of all, let me say that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
This is the, or I should have put it the other way around, I think. This is the base layer. This Akasha, let's say,
Okay.
is the base, and on top of which it's like this, no? So if you look at, let's say, the H2O, right? The water that we see.
Right,
So
right,
when we say, how will you, when you are picturizing, where will you picturize hydrogen? Will you picturize it here or here? It's not actually that way, right? If you have to picture this, it will go like this, right? So one,
got it.
two, and then there will be one more here, right? Something,
Yeah,
this will be your oxygen layer,
yeah.
which is the atom that is outside of these two common atoms, right? So that's how it is. So the way of picturization is just for the understanding. Okay. So
So
this, everything is put together as one compound, right? So don't look at it as the emptiness or anything. So what we are trying to say is that this is what is predominant element in this. On the basis, this element is like, in the water, hydrogen is the predominant element, right? Because two of the hydrogen atoms, and then this oxygen is only one. Like that, if when we are coming to a higher level, Akasha is what is predominant, because 50% of Akasha. So this will be 50%, right?
yeah,
50% of Akasha. And then this will be like 12.5 each when we are taking a mathematical precision of it.
got it.
Correct?
So the whole
So
thing is a manifestation. The whole thing is a manifestation,
whole
including
thing
the
is manifest. Yeah,
base plus
absolutely.
the other components. Okay, now I got it. Okay.
Absolutely. Whole thing is a manifestation. There is nothing like void or anything here,
Got it.
right? Because everything is Dravya Shakti.
Okay.
Okay.
Haribhai, I have one question.
Yeah, please.
This Panchikaranam is like a it's raising so many queries, but one fundamental question I'm getting is, wha- we see like this whole thing is only for the living thing or non-living matters as well.
Anything. So if you look at, let's say, anything at all, a desk, bench, or anything, right? That's what I
Right.
said. This can be again, the same principle applies what we saw earlier, right? This is just, think of it the way that we should look at is think of this from a chemistry perspective. Right.
Right.
Think of the periodic table of elements for a moment, right? So when we try to define any matter using that periodic table of elements, right? Any permutation combinations that we see, right? How is it made? We say that okay, one atom of this and two other atoms of this came and joined together to form a compound, and from that came the element, and then from that came this particular form and shape, and that's how it is. It's exactly a similar thought process, right? So if you're asking like whether the living beings are they is in each one of those having the same compound as that of the a desk or a bench or a tree or something else, answer is no, because it's like the atoms that are required, the combination that is going to create water is not what is the combination that is going to create something else, a gas
Yeah.
or something else, right? So it is different. But if you look at what is the base for everything, if you look at the periodic table of elements, the elements that are mentioned there forms the basis for that, right? And the
Yes.
compounding forms the basis for all the creation as mentioned in the, I mean, the compounding that is mentioned in the chemistry, correct? Similarly, this five elements is where we start in uh, Vedantic terms, and
Yeah.
various permutation combinations of this is what is getting mixed into it. So if you look at from the perspective of science also, is there a sixth element here? No, right? Though they mentioned that they don't say Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi, they say what is that? Gas, plasma, liquid, solid, right? So like that.
Mm-hmm.
Correct? So it's exactly the same. It is exactly like what science describes. Only thing is that we say it in a different manner, or rather, science says in a different manner, of rather than saying Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi. Anything and everything that you see is coming from the permutation combination of this. So it could be that, let's say there is something where Akasha, Jala's only top layer is there. This is missing as an example, right? The smallest compounding. So that is possible. So various combinations of this. So we have all learned permutation combinations. So think of how many permutation combinations you can make out from this particular table, right? So this is what forms the base for the creation.
Right. I only got confused because of one thing. Like
Hmm.
because what we see, what we saw in the previous slide was the um Sukshma Sharira, and then the three elements like Rajasic, Tamasic, and then Sattvic.
Hmm.
Then the combination of this. So uh, where I got confused was like how can a non-living thing can have a Sukshma Sharira? But again, I'm not able to um, understand that aspect of it. Yeah,
So how
this
can
diagram.
a
So
non-living thing can have a Sukshma Sharira? You're absolutely right. That thing will be missing. For example, if you are asking a water bottle, does it have a
yeah,
Sukshma Sharira? It doesn't have,
right.
correct?
Hmm.
But it has a form, it has a shape, right? So it has a tamasic aspect to it.
Right,
Correct?
right,
It
right.
doesn't, the entire thing is missing. That's what I said. So if you look at each of these, so this is the base picture, right?
Right.
or periodic table of elements, as we say. This entire aspect is missing for a non-living thing. You're right, right? So, and some of the aspects, as an example, so there are living things that wherein, only, let's say, um, a reptile, that is, a snake, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
We say that, some of these are that doesn't have a pani or pada or upastam and all that, right? So
Yeah.
this entire thing is missing there, or even it doesn't have a walk, correct? So it
Right.
doesn't have this entire scheme of things, but then at the same time, it might be having some other powers. So what we are trying to do is that we are trying to understand the scheme of things here. So if you are to make a same chart for a snake, it might be a little bit different, but again, this layer is not going to change,
Right.
right? And these three gunas are not going to change. Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic is not going to change. So
Right.
a snake's body, a gross body, has to come from these tamasic elements,
Right.
right?
Right.
And
Right.
see, what we are trying to see and what we are trying to explain here is a very complex thing. First of all, let's understand that, right? We are talking about the entire creation or
Creation.
manifestation of the
Mm-hmm.
entire universe, and how living, non-living, whatever we see, millions and billions of, things that we see, heard about, or that exist, what is the base for all that? That is what we are trying to explore here,
Yeah.
right? That's like, for the physics or chemistry or for the science, that's what they spend lifetimes together to understand, right? So we are trying to give a simplistic view. So what I'm trying to say is, this is the base, and sorry, yeah, this is the Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jalam, Bhumi is the base, and the rest of it can be various permutation combinations of, if you
Combinations.
want to take
Yeah.
one specimen out of this entire manifestation, right, and then draw a similar chart for it, you can do that, right? Then you can make a customized chart for that particular thing, living or
Right.
not living. Let's say if you are to create a chart like this, a picture like this for a water bottle, right, as we are saying, this entire
Mm-hmm.
thing goes away, right? This tamasic element will just stick in for
Yeah.
snake, as we said, right? This is for us, the human beings. The chart that we are seeing here has got all this, but then again, various permutations, combinations. The base layer is what we are trying to see here.
Right. Right. Now I understood. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hari bhai, Pradeep, just
Mm.
follow-up question.
Yeah.
Actually, I mean, this looks like a it's like a universal formula, right, for
Yeah.
manifestation.
Yeah.
Now, two questions here. One is there any rational reason why it is 50 plus 12.5 plus 12.5 plus 12.5 plus 12? Is that, or why is it not 40 plus 60 and the 60 broken into equally into 15, 15, 15, 15, or
So,
some
okay. I think good question. So I am just saying that what I was trying to say is, if you take this one as a whole,
yeah,
I was just trying to give a mathematical precision to it.
got it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah,
So yes, this might not be 50, this might be like 30, and the rest of the combinations. Because if you look at the millions of things that we see around us, right? So what we are trying to say here is, the base layer of anything here
yeah,
consists of a combination of this. It could be various combinations, but for our understanding, we are just saying that, okay, if you take this as 100,
got it.
you can put the 50 as a top, and because there will be, what the principle that we are trying to say is, there will be one predominant element in the base layer across,
Got it.
which is like
So
this.
the possibilities then, if it's a combination of those percentage don't matter or can be anything, then the possibility of manifestations is infinite. Is infinite.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's why we are saying, that's why, and very good point. And now we are going a bit into deeper into this, right? So And I'll tell you. So now you have brought a very interesting aspect. Now, see, these are the senses that we know of: hearing, touch, vision, taste, smell, and all that, right? And then the powers that we have through which we are feeling or experiencing this Stula Prapancha, correct?
Yeah.
Now, there are in this world itself, there are creatures who experience what we don't experience because they have got some other senses. Agree?
Yeah.
Right? So their vision might be different. They might be seeing or hearing or experiencing whatever we are not experiencing because our instruments, we are limited with the capacity of our instruments.
True.
Right, we say that okay, this is how it looks, right? Because we have got, let's say, particular color schema that is been imbibed into us, so we say that okay, this is blue or this is red or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Then there might be some other animals who might be able to see much more color schema than we have, like that, much more things that they can see, or vice versa also, right? There are animals who cannot see certain colors. Like that, the permutations combinations, as you rightly said, is infinite. And that's how Vedanta describes the universe. So it clearly says that you are limited by your senses and you define this entire universe as per your instruments of experience. Right?
Right.
It doesn't mean that the other planes of existence, because you are not able to experience, doesn't exist.
Okay.
Correct?
Yeah.
Right? So there could be millions of other planes of existence that are there, but it is not subject to the instruments of our perception.
Right.
Right? And
So
that's what we call as lokas. If you look at in Puranas and all that, there are umpteen number of lokas described. There are, like, uh, uh, lot of lokas on the top of Bhumi, lot of
yeah.
lokas on the downside, right? Atala, Sutala, Patala, Vitala, and all that stuff, right? So various fields and planes of existence is being portrayed in this manner,
Yeah.
which is not subject to the human perception.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
an example is like, I mean, what is visible to us is the human eye is
Yeah,
designed to only read certain amount of light or hear only certain amount of frequency
yeah,
range. So we only see and hear what is in that range. Anything outside that range, we are
yeah.
not able to read or see. Similarly, other animals or other manifestations have instruments which may in different ranges or more capable or less capable, and therefore will be able to interpret in their own way. Doesn't mean that the manifestations don't necessarily reside
Exist.
only in that spectrum, but they are actually much broader overall.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So at least, that's quite logical, isn't it? Because, we are limited. The first thing to understand is, and that's where I think we as humans fail, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
we say that, okay, whatever is there, not there because, we are not able to experience, doesn't exist. It's illogical, right? First thing that we need to understand is we are limited by our own instruments. That's the way to look at it, because just that because we are limited by our own instruments doesn't mean that that doesn't exist. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what the Panchikarana that mentions the matter also, right? Absolutely various permutation combinations there.
Right.
So this is how it is described.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
That's clear, Haribhai. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Now I would just take one picture that Pradeep Bhai has put in his DP and he has sent to us. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
Now I think this is the time
Yeah.
for us to look at that one. Now, Sankhya Tattva Avalokanam. So that's what it says. So this is exactly the same thing that we had seen now. The universe is a coordinated conjunction of a circular domain of 5 elements: Vayu, Apa, Akasha, Teja, and Prithvi. The same 5 elements that we saw, and Trigunas: Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic. So now, does this make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So this is what exactly we were trying to explain. Just to also to let you know, Sankhya is not uh, completely an Advaitic philosophy, right? What Sankhya, the difference, only difference is that there is a they see a duality of Prakriti and Purusha. Right. So again, the ultimate is the same. So they say that everything has come from the Purusha or the Brahman only. But then the view is a little bit different. So they keep one to one side the Brahman and to the other side everything else. So that everything else is called as Prakriti, whatever the gross, subtle. So it's the same thing. Just the way of putting across is a little bit different. But the creation part, as mentioned here, is again the five elements plus the gunas of the three gunas plus five elements. That combination, permutation combination, is what gives rise to everything in this universe. That's what it is said. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have seen this much. Anything that any comments or anything before we move on? Move on in the sense that we are just trying to deep dive into the next layer. What is Jiva and Ishvara? Any questions? Anything?
Haribhai, one more question. So going back to the table where we had all of that, at the top you had obviously written the Brahman plus Maya, the manifestation, and we have put Karana Prapancham, right?
Yep.
So why did we put Karana Prapancham at the top across everything? Um
Okay. So if you look at it's another way of looking at it, right? This is the base actually. This should have come here, right? But okay. So the point is that when we looked at the stula, the sharira part, that is Veshti part from our own self, right? I think I said this.
yeah,
So when we looked at it, we looked at it from a perspective of gross body. We started from the gross body when we were looking at it from an individual perspective.
yeah,
Correct. So individual perspective, the gross body, then that is, then we went into that is, the the Stula Sharira, then we went to the Sukshma Sharira, then we went into the Karana Sharira, then from the Karana Sharira, we saw the view of the Panchakoshas, the five sheets, and then we went into the Brahman aspect of it. That is the base,
yeah.
right? Now, since we understood that base layer of Brahman, for the samashti part, we were starting from that. That's why we described about Brahman and Maya to start with,
Mm-hmm.
right? And how, because that is easier to understand. Otherwise, we will have to look at from the entire creation part. So we started from the Brahman and Maya. That is when we reach that point, then from that point, the outside view to the entire world. That's how we were trying to look at it. That's why we started from the Brahman and Maya aspect of it.
Got it.
Okay, that's what it is.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now we are trying to understand something called as Jiva and Ishvara. What is Jiva? What is Ishvara? Right. So we have heard this. What is Jiva? What is Ishvara? So I'll just read out. स्थूल शरीराभिमानि जीवनामकं ब्रह्म प्रतिबिम्बं भवति स एव जीव प्रकृत्या स्वस्मात् ईश्वरं भिन्नत्वेन जानाति अविद्योपाधि सन् आत्मा जीव इत्युच्यते मायोपाधि सन् ईश्वर इत्युच्यते एवं उपाधि भेदात् जीवेश्वर भेद दृष्टिः यावत्पर्यन्तं तिष्ठति तावत्पर्यन्तं जन्म मरणादि रूप संसारो न निवर्तते तस्मात् कारणान्न जीवेश्वरयोर्भेद बुद्धिः स्वीकार्य. So now we are going to a very important phase of our learning in knowing what is Jiva and what is Ishvara. See what Vedanta says and what we have been seeing is that the Om aspect that we saw, or whatever we saw as this here, right? The Om or the Brahman, which is denoted by Om. This is the base for all. That's how we saw that, right? This is how we saw the from an individual perspective. And the same power, that energy is powering the entire creation also in the way that we just saw. That is the Karana Prapancham, Stula Prapancham, and Sukshma Prapancham, right? So now what we are saying is, then why are we seeing these differences? Then why is it that I am not able to perceive that I am that Brahman, right? Or why do I think that, okay, I am this individual limited self, and then there is this, there is somewhere some God sitting somewhere out there, which we call as Ishvara, right? Who is, and we generally have this belief, right? Even if you say that, you are a atheist or whoever that is, right? So who doesn't believe in God, even for that person, when they start developing their intellect, they have this notion that, okay, there is something somewhere out there that is, controlling everything, right? So a God is sitting somewhere else. So why do I, if this is the case, that, the God that is residing inside, in the sense that the power that is powering me is the same power that is powering everything else. And as we saw in the example of gold and ornaments, if that same power is what is coming in different names and forms, why is it that I am not able to understand that? And why is it that I am thinking that there is a God sitting somewhere out somewhere, and then, controlling everything? That question is being answered here. Stula Sharirabhimani Jiva Namakam Brahma Pratibimbam Bhavati. Now, for all these learnings, we need to have a thorough understanding of the Antakarana layer. Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. So, what is said here is Stula Sharirabhimani. Stula Sharirabhimani means this gross body, whoever is thinking that I am this body, as an example, I am thinking I am Hari. When I say Hari, what is the immediate thought that is coming to my mind? This body, I am Hari, right? So that's Stula Sharira Abhimani. So the ego that thinks that, okay, this body is Hari or me, right? And I am only this body, that jiva, that sense of that ego, that individuality, right? Wherein we only know till the ego layer of I or Hari or Pradeep or Sandeep or Manish or whoever that is, right? Till that layer. That is also powered by that same Brahman as we saw. But we, from our understanding, we only know till that layer, ego layer. And we encompass that ego layer to everything outside. That is, our view is only till outside. So from the ego layer we stand, and then we think that everything outside, that is, chitta, buddhi, mana, and then these sukshma shariras, pancha jnanendriyas, pancha karmendriyas, pancha prana, antakarana, right? Though we don't classify it, we know inherently that all these things are there. And then this sharira, all this is what I am. If you ask, if you just, dissect what is this ego, that the ahankara that I am having as I, this is the combination. Ego of I, that sense of I, plus all this, my thoughts, my memories, my intellectual capacity, my, my circulatory digestive system, whatever that is, right? And then the pranas that I have, and then the body that I have, right? So all this from the ego layer outward is what we only know about. And that's what I call as I. This sense of everything, whatever we have from the ego layer outward, right? That is, here we stand, where we are standing here. This is the ahankara layer or I. And then what does this I or this jiva, what does it has its ego reflected into everything? My memories, my intellectual capacity, my thoughts, right? Even though I don't know that, I have all this, still I say body. When I say body, this all comes under part of that. Then, my efforts, all the karmas that I do. my knowledge layer, right? And then everything that my body goes through. So this I standing here, what does it say? It says all this is what is whatever name you want to call it, Hari, Pradeep, Sandeep, whatever it is, right? So this is what I know as I, whatever I say as I, right? So of course, that I doesn't know the Karana Sharira because when I'm in deep sleep, I don't know about even this I. And that's what we saw, what is behind that and Brahman. So what is this? How does this, what is powering this? That is also being powered by the same Omkara, right? That is, the same Tattva here. That is what is powering that I layer. When that is the view that we are having, because of that view, because of this, we don't know about this, and our vision is only outward, like what we just saw, right? So that's why we are having this, the perception called as Jiva, right? This I that we just saw here, encompassing the abhimana or the possessiveness of all these layers put together is called as Jivan. That is what we call as I ourselves. Is that not the case? Any dispute, any doubt in this one?
No, it's clear.
Right. So that is what has been said. Stula Sharira Abhimani Jivanamakam Brahma Pradibimbam Bhavati. And what is that? Is there a separate existence to this? No. Where is the power coming from? The power, as we saw, is coming from here only, right? We saw that. There is, if this is not there, all this is what? Jada, right? A dead body doesn't come and say that okay, I am this person. No, it doesn't say that, right? Why? Because what? This layer, this Brahman is actually that is not powering all these layers. So, but we don't know this, but we know all this. So that right now also, what is it? This, whatever, whenever I'm speaking to you, what is this? That power is coming from that Brahman only, right? That power source is that Brahman. That Brahma Pradibimbam is what is this Jiva. Because, with the power of Brahman, this body or this Ahankara is thinking, I am all this, I am doing everything, right? I am the ego. I am my body, mind, intellect, whatever that is. But I don't know what the real nature of I is. But instead, I am superimposing myself to all these elements and saying that this is what I is. I am putting a boundary around me, saying that the gross body plus the Sukshma Sharira plus the Ahankara till the Ahankara layer is what I am. So if you ask that ego on where you are getting this power from, the ego doesn't know, right? We don't know. That's why we are always thinking what we just call as life, or whatever Atman or whatever we use in the generic term, my life. What is my life? My life is, there is nothing called as my life apart from the power that is powering you, right? So but still we don't know about that power. We think that this ego layer is what I am. Because of that ego layer, because of that lack of knowledge of this, which we call as avidya, right? That, because of the notion that I identify myself with these layers of the body, and that's the reason why I'm not knowing this. That because of that avidya, we are not knowing what we call as the Brahman. And that layer, which the Ahankara layer, which is actually giving rise to that possessiveness or identification with all these bodily aspects is called as Jivan. But if you look at what is it exactly, it is the same power which is getting reflected in the form of Ahankara as the Jivan with the possessiveness that I am this body. Without knowing that that this body, whatever I call as I, is not the real nature of I. Then what is causing it? It is called as not knowing that the power within is called as avidya. right? Now, when we extrapolate the same thing, when we extrapolate that to the prapancha aspect of it, that is by thinking that there is a God out there and that God is taking care of everything, we call that God as Ishvara. Again, there is avidya. What is avidya? We are thinking that, okay, there is a God sitting somewhere out some there, be it in some other place, some other plane, and then controlling everything. That view, which is not the correct view, is the Maya when it comes to the macro level. At macro level, we call that as Ishvara. At micro level, at individual level, we call that reflection of that consciousness as Jiva. The same reflection of consciousness when we go to the macro level is called as Ishvara. There is only one power, and that power, when it is getting reflected at the micro level, is called as Jiva, and when it is getting reflected at the macro level, is called as Ishvara. So, what is being told here is look within what is your real nature. That's what are all the Vedantic texts, Vedas tells us, right? So it is like we go as an example. So when we go to any of the temples, we go miles and miles and miles, and then we go to temples, and then what we do, we pray. How do we pray? We just pray the immediately as soon as we go in front of the shrine, we close our eyes and look within involuntarily, right? It's an aspect. What does it mean? We get the peace. Of course, you have to go to the temple. Why? Because at least that gives you that notion that okay, there is this Ishvara, and then you are fine tuning yourself with that Ishvara aspect. But then where are you looking? Why are you closing the eyes? You are looking within, and without the buddhi or intellect or the mana telling you, you inherently know that, right? That is what is powering you. And you close the eyes and you try to look within. So this is what Vedanta tells us. What does it say? That jiva that you think that you are, which is the reflection of that consciousness, is the same thing that is powering everything, and it is called as Ishvara. Okay, and we are going to see what is the next thing that we need to do. I'll just stop today by telling a story. So how can we know about it? How are we searching Ishvara in the world outside? Is like there is a story where uh, 10 people, they met from various different places, and then they were going towards a certain place, and then there was a river to cross to the other side, and then they all were waiting for the boat to arrive, and then they came to know that the boat will not come on that particular day due to whatever reason. So they said, okay, it's not that deep, so let's swim across. And then they went, and then they were swimming across, and when they reached the other shore, right, then they started walking. And then somebody said that, okay, so let's do one thing. Let's see whether everyone has just, came to this shore. We just want to see. So let's see. So then these guys, they stood in a line, and then one guy said, okay, I will count. So then he started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then he said, only 9 are there. Then he started counting from this way to this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then he said, no, one guy is missing. So one person has not come. So then other guy said, no, that cannot be right. You stand in the queue. I will count. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like that. So then everyone counted like this, and then they started sitting and crying, saying that we have lost someone. We don't know who that is, right? So and then a man was coming, and then he saw these guys sitting and crying, and then he asked, what's the problem? So he said, we are 10 guys, and then we are coming, and then but now we are only 9. So the guy looked at it, okay, they are 10. So then he said, you start counting again. And then they started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. See, there are only 9. So then he said, turn this finger that you are counting to this side. That is 10, right? So this is 10. So so what happened there? Then these guys were so happy. Oh, I am the 10th one, right? I am the 10th one. Now I found myself. I am the 10th one. So none of us are lost. Everyone is there, right? So this might sound like a bit of a exaggerated story, but then that it has got a very in-depth meaning in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn within that 10, that whatever you are searching outside in everything, what is the meaning of all this? That's what science does also, right? Science is trying to find the reason behind everything, God particle, this, that, right? So that 9, that 10, if you look within, you will find yourself. And you will find that the same reason that is powering you is what is powering universe. That is what is called as Tattvamasi. And that is what is exactly that we are going to look at in the next session. We are going to see what Tattvamasi is, right? And you have already got a gist of it, because now we saw what did we see till now? We saw the individual aspect, that is this gross body, then the subtle body, and the causal body, and the power that is powering all these three bodies. We saw the gross prapancha, or the gross universe, that is the matter that is there within, and whatever we see, experience, whatever that gross matter is. We saw the power behind that, that is, the power of vision that is being developed in various animals, the pancha jnanendriyas, right? The power of speech, hearing, touch, smell, and all that. And then the karana behind that, which is Maya. So we saw everything that we have to see from an outer world perspective. That is Maya, Karana Prapancha, Sukshma Prapancha, Stula Prapancha, Stula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira, Karana Sharira, and the base within, which is Brahman. And whatever that which I call as I in this ego layer, wherein I am looking outward and encompassing everything, that is called as jiva. That ahankara is the jiva, but it is actually that one self only which is getting reflected as jiva. Similarly, when I'm extrapolating the same notion that everything is outside and everything is apart from me, and this entire universe is created and there is a god somewhere sitting there, that is called as Ishvara. So we have seen everything outside that needs to be seen. Now what we are going to see is how that is actually getting jointed in terms of the Vyashti and Samashti level into one as Tattvamasi. As I said, the 10th guy is within. That is what we are going to see in the next class. Okay. So I will stop here for today. But then I have an assignment for you for next class.
Sounds exciting.
Yes.
Okay, Haribhai.
Okay, so the assignment is this, and that's why I didn't give too much of details in this one, in terms of the pictorial depiction. So if you can come up with the vision of Stula Sharira, that is the micro and macro, Vyashti and Samashti. Vyashti, Stula, Sukshma, Karana Sharira, and the within the Brahman, and on the other hand, the Karana Prapancham, Sukshma Prapancham, Stula Prapancham. You don't have to in detail describe about Panchikarana. Forget about that. That was just technical. And what is Jivan? What is Ishvara? Your understanding, right? If you can do this, and you can do it in whichever way that you want, you can do like Pradeep Bhai did very jazzy thing last time, and now you don't have to spend that much of time. You can simply do it in a in a piece of paper and then click your photo and send. Or if you want, you can do that as also, right? So whichever way that you want. But then main thing is that whether you have got, or whether you have got whatever we are trying to discuss, or whether there are any gaps. So if there are gaps, we need to first of all clear out those doubts or gaps that we have. Then only we will understand Tattvamasi, because Tattvamasi is the most important, the core and crux of Vedantic philosophy, right? So can you do that for the next session?
Yes,
We
sir.
can, but I'm getting more confused now.
Yeah. So
Reason being,
yeah.
if I leave I have no motivation to do anything for this I. And if I feel that Jiva and Ishvara is one, and I leave my I, then I'm nowhere. Fine, I'm fine with that. But then I have that mindset of not doing nothing for no one, including myself, which I say I. So it means it's a more confusing stage, more confusing thing. Why my being of this sarira in this present time? Why I have to do anything for this sarira? Is more confusing for me now.
So that's because, see, during childhood, when, let's say, first time when we all had honey or kheer or anything, what would have been our first reaction? We would be like, no, right? Because children always do that because they don't know what it is, right? So they'll be like, they are fine with whatever they are getting as whatever food that they are getting. When they're being introduced to something new, there is always resistance. So like that, our mind also, it's all play of mind, right? What is it? It's a play of thoughts, thinking that if I lose my individuality, then I will not be existing. I'll be non-existent. Then why should I do that? That's where the question is coming from, right? But then the point is that it's like, a river getting merged into the ocean. So there is a story of, like, a puppet made of salt went, and he said that, get, I want to know the depths of the ocean. And it went and jumped into the ocean, right? And it dissolved. Of course, it cannot come back, right? But what happened? It became the ocean, like the river merging into the ocean. Remember that whatever is being told is not by losing individuality, you are being reborn. That is why it is called as Dvija. Whenever you talk about Brahmana, if you have done any kind of this Upanayana Samskara, right? I don't know how many of you have, right? So whenever that is happening, what is the concept there? You are being reborn into what? You are losing your individuality and being reborn into the universality, right? The sense that you are becoming one with the universal principle. And I think we discussed about in one of the previous classes as well. It doesn't mean that you are not going to do your duties, but your way that you're doing your duties changes. Like King Jana, your duties are not being driven by your greed or your individuality or your selfishness or possessiveness. Rather, you are doing for the, like a karma yoga, right? Just to be within. And you will see, that's where we need to have a clear perspective of this. Think about the life, right? And we are all like, like past 40s. So if you look at a typical lifespan is, let's say, 80 years. What is it? 80 years, when we say 80 years, over 80 years. But if you just look at it, and this one day, I woke up in the morning, now the day is almost about to close. Like that, what? We have about what, 38,000 to 40,000 days? That's it, right? That's what we are talking about. That 38 to 40,000 days is what that we have in our life. When we talk about 80 years, we think, oh, 80 years, but that's it. And whatever we are saying, whether we like it or not, is going to end in that 30,000 to 40,000 days. So this is our time to actually look at whether there is any reality beyond this 40,000 days. Or is it just this 40,000 days? And I think that is, whenever we say, come up with this question, we always think from this standpoint that I am eternal. Nobody thinks that he's going to die. I mean, not trying to scare, but then that's a reality, right? We always think, and this is a question that is put by in Mahabharata, right? When Yudhishthira was asked by the Yaksha, there is a story, right? Wherein what is the most surprising thing in the entire life. So he says, Ahani Ahani Budani Gachandi Yamale Shesha Stavar Michandi Kimat Budam Idaparam. Everyone goes is in the queue. And then everyone goes, the others sees that, but still thinks that I am going to be attending, right? So whatever we are talking about is a span of this 30 or 40,000 days, right? And then maybe half of it is gone already, and we don't. We are trying to cling to that, saying that I will lose this. You are anyways going to lose it. But if you wake up to that, right, you are not going to lose it because you are trying to understand beyond your mind, beyond your intellect. And we are now, when we say in the waking state, we are becoming a bit petrified about how will I lose my individuality? Then what happens to me? You are losing it every night, right? You are losing your individuality every night, and that is what is energizing you for the next day. Otherwise you will not be energized, right? So but our mind is thinking that okay, if and that's a fear of death, that's the fear of losing one's individuality, and that is the root cause for everything and anything that we do. Any selfish act, we know that it's wrong. When we try to snatch money from someone else, we know that it's wrong. When we do take bribe or something, we know that it's wrong. But where is this all coming from? It is all coming from this selfishness, this fear that I want to live successfully. If I get my money, if not, I'll be losing this. If not, I'll be losing that. That is only the span, right? Think about that. Another out of 40,000 days already gone. About 15,000, 20,000 days is gone. Another 20,000 days is what we're talking about, right? Yeah.
Are
Think of
you
it.
afraid of that death?
Yeah.
Are you afraid of death?
I should not be, right? If I understand this, I should not be afraid of death. If I not, right? See, there are two ways of looking at it. One is I can strive to achieve the principle that I am beyond death and try to just sit in that principle. Then of course I'm not afraid of death. If I think that I am this body, yes, of course I'll be afraid of death. Anyone for that matter will be afraid of death. And that's where the entire philosophy, all that thought process, thinkers, everyone has come from. And we actually said about this, right? The in one of the sessions that we have something called as immortality projects, if you remember, right? And this is not coming from Vedanta. This is coming from one of the greatest thinkers and after Freud in psychology. So he said everything that we do is immortality projects. We want our immortality to be established even after our body is gone. That's why whatever we do, when we build a good house, when we think that we will give some bank balance to our children, or we want our legacy to continue. We want to be alive even after our death. But that's the only way. That's a limited way, right?
Yes.
Agreed, Haribhai. Haribhai, just once, if you could just repeat the question again for my
No,
benefit.
yeah, I was going to ask this actually. So, if it is possible, Haribhai, to write it in the WhatsApp group, because I think some of
I
us
I,
are not
I
there.
will send
So, I think it would be good to write it down. And
Yeah.
just wanted to ask you, Haribhai, and I'm like also Sandeep Bhai, and I'm the one to blame actually, because today I was all over the place listening to your to the session. Now, if I want to do a bit more, reading, so Tattva Bodha is nice, right? I've read a whole book. I think this part is a later part in that book. So to answer the question you are giving as an assignment, is there something which we can read to give that answer? If you can suggest that.
So see, I will upload the PPT now in that folder, right? That itself should give you somewhat insight, right? That's the best reference point. What you will miss from that is the view of Jiva and Ishvara. That's it, right? But what I'm actually looking for is whether you have understood the all the three shariras correctly from a micro and macro perspective, and then like the same way that you had mapped the Atman for the previous assignment, I'm just trying to understand whether you are able to map Jiva and Ishvara. That's it. Right.
Okay.
So best reference point is look at the slides there. And then if you have doubts, I think we can discuss in the next class, of course. See, it's all a small group, right? So there is no hard and fast rule whether you understood or not understood. But the point is that till what point we have all understood. That's what we are trying to see. So that, we can start from that point and then we can rectify all the doubts and move forward.
Yeah. Anyway, conscious of time, but I had a question which I'll probably ask separately or maybe next class. But it was related to Jiva and Ishvara, so relates to the homework. But then I can either sync up or we can ask now or in the next class, whatever.
Yeah, so maybe we can take 2 more minutes so that others will also benefit. So
Okay, sure.
everyone has actually, yeah.
Okay, it'll be quick then. So Jiva and Ishvara, the way I understood, if we are saying that Jiva and Ishvara are the same, and that is what is empowering us, then to be fair, I could actually just directly relate it to Atman and Brahman. There's no difference between Jiva, Ishvara, Atman, and Brahman. It's the same. So, that is how I would. Otherwise, I'm not getting a differentiation between how we applied or understood that versus how we understand, because the power is within, and we're just giving it a term, which is what is we are calling Jiva, and then we are because the way you explained, the way we worship, or the way we have always thought that Ishvara is something outside and somebody sitting there as power and we worship, right? And that is exactly the concept where we were looking at Atman and then the Brahman, or Atman is outside. I could just relate it directly to that concept. So it is very much related to the homework. I just wanted to clarify. You may want to answer or may not, or leave it a question, but I just wanted to play my thoughts.
You are just telling the answer. You're not asking the question. That's what we are going to look at. Yeah. So yeah, you are on the right track. That's exactly what we are going to look at, right? So you are right. So only thing is that wrong identification from the ego layer outward is what is jiva, what is called as jiva, what we call as my own entity. The same thing when we are extrapolating outside is called as Ishvara. That's it, right? But now going one step further, we will tie all that saying that this is the same. That is what is Tattvasi. And that's what you exactly said, right? So we are on the right track. Yeah.
Okay.
So I was, I think just very briefly, I was going to relate to it when you said that when you go to temple, yeah, you close your eyes and you look inside. So that's again, you're looking inside for Ishvara, right? And Atman, very much. Yeah. So that's what I thought would be as well. But Jiva, I wasn't sure actually. And Jiva is a topic I need to study more. So when you say Jiva, you're looking at life and death there, right?
No, when we say jiva, look at it as life, right? Your own entity, your own. When we say, Paresh, who's Paresh? So the Paresh that or I know is like, the one who's having that ego layer outward, body plus all that, right? So if you are able to understand, if you are able to sit on the layer of that, or that Brahman, then as we said earlier, that Paresh will dissolve into Brahman. You will still be there. It's not that your body is not going to be non-existent or anything, but you will be there. But that layer will not be there. That Tattvamasi, you would have awakening to that consciousness. So that's what it is.
So is it a different book, Haribhai, or it's the same book? And
We have just started with one book, which is Prakarana Grantha, right? We have just started. We are in the elementary text. There is a lot to learn, so we need to be a bit patient there.
Okay, good.
Okay, yeah. All right. So let's then have the closing prayers. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.